Allow me to introduce our next speaker, Paweł Borecki. And what does Paweł say about himself? I'm a tech lead at Digital Technology Poland with over 17 years of experience in various fields of software development. Starting from bots for games like Ogame or Mu Online in Python and C++, moved on to PHP web development, then to cloud, and somehow over the years I've worked with so many languages and technologies that I've lost count. I'm really passionate about code quality and health work environment, open source advocate, and Polish language leader for the Home Assistant project. In my spare time, I love to automate our smart home, work on cool 3D printing or CNC project. And also beat my wife at Mortal Kombat. Sorry, Han, speaking Paweł. Let's welcome to the stage Paweł Borecki. In speech, has TypeScript became the villain he was once supposed to conquer.
So, thank you for the nice introduction and welcome everyone. So first of all, because before I start, I want to put an emphasis on the fact that, I will not answer that question today. I think there's no answer in reality. And most of all, I will give you some points, maybe to think about, maybe to have some reflection, and to make the decision on yourself. What was the trigger to create this presentation? Because it isn't obvious. TypeScript has become this de facto standard for web development for, I think, multiple years now. So those were two tweets actually. One from creator of Ruby on Rails and Turbo framework that said, so farewell TypeScript, may you bring much rigor and satisfaction to your tribe while letting the rest of us enjoy JavaScript in the glorious spirit it was originally designed, free of strong typing. It was like weird, right? Everyone praises strong typing, like this is what we want. And everyone moved from the old days before TypeScript even existed to CoffeeScript, to TypeScript, like to put an emphasis on this strongly typed language. And another one is, in fact, just a comment to an article, but I've just loved it. Svelte is switching away from TypeScript. This had to be a mistake, right? And to be fair, spoiler alert, it's somewhat is, like they are not moving away from TypeScript, not in the way you may be thinking. But those tweets and some articles made me thinking, like, maybe there is a general take that could put new perspective into using TypeScript and maybe limiting usage of TypeScript in a modern web development environment. So let's go back to 2012. You're trying to write a web application. You have to support IE because that was the most used browser in the world. But you want to do it the right way, like the modern way, right? To be maintainable, extendable, but you lack all the tools necessary to do it. There's no interfaces, no real classes, and of course, I know we were writing classes, but those were just objects pretending to be a class, like trying to emulate some of the capabilities of a class, but in fact, they were just an object. No generics, that's a big bummer. No modules, no namespaces. And what's most important, there was no types, right? Like you had those types you could declare, but they meant nothing. You could just throw away at JavaScript compiler 2 different types, tell it to add them, to concatenate them, and it would try. It would like not throw an exception, not detect it, it would just try. And it resulted on some interesting mistakes that you can not foresee just from the point of code review. You had to run the code to be able to experience them, and that was a big problem. So obviously the solution we're talking today is TypeScript. I know there was also a CoffeeScript, but this is whole another topic. So classes are now first-class citizens, right? We have generics, modules, namespaces, we have types, and so much more, right? And on top of that, it's a superset of JavaScript. So we are not repeating the mistake that CoffeeScript made, that it was like completely different language. Every valid JavaScript file is also a valid TypeScript file. And this is very important. We will come back to this later on. And it was a solution, right? Right, because this is an open question if this was really the solution and the final form of the solution. So it became to being some kind of cult, that it was so popular that we should use it everywhere, every time, always, all of it, like in all different projects, even if the project is small, as is intended to be a proof of concept, and MVP isn't going to be maintained anymore. Not important. If you're not using TypeScript, you're a bummer. You should be ashamed of yourself, and you should be using TypeScript every time, right? So there were multiple articles of like, even I think I copied a title here that TypeScript should be enabled by default. You have to use it everywhere. Yes, you should use TypeScript, and you should always pick TypeScript over JavaScript in 2023. And everybody loves TypeScript, and I especially love those series of tweets from Can't See Dudes that said, I don't use TypeScript, so I don't plan on ever supporting it. And it was in 2017. Then, in 2019, he said, your impassionate love of TypeScript is sort of freaking me out. And it was, because we were on this verge of a peak of growth of TypeScript. And then, in 2023, magic happened, because TypeScript has won, apparently. And it's only a matter of time you're using it, whether you like it or not. And this is a very interesting approach, because this guy is a well-known guru in a world of educating people, creating courses on JavaScript. And even he mentioned it that, yeah, whether you like it or not, you're going to use it. So, yeah, this was this kind of hype train, and this hype train is, I think, important if we look at the peak of inflated expectation. I think we are now well beyond that. Maybe it was somewhere right before that tweet. And now we are somewhere on the slope of enlightenment, that we start to understand that maybe it isn't the goal to be fancy and to just introduce complexity just for the sake of complexity and like using the newest mechanism. And that maybe we can adopt some compromise between using the old methodology and the new one in like a meaningful manner that we can achieve our goals. Yeah, this was new solution, and it brings some new interesting issues. So, wait, I know that maybe this is. Oh no, I think it's readable. Wait, is there even some code in this code, right? Because if we go through it, even the first comment said, yeah, this is a hack to fight against TypeScript. I believe this is from React, and in reality, what it does, it's a function that takes an argument and creates like an observable new observable from this argument. But because TypeScript took the road to mix in all the types with the logic, the business logic of the code, it's like, this is not even the worst example, but it's becoming less and less readable for the user, right? Instead of reading the code, you're reading the typing. And maybe the typings are important, but they are not important all the time, and not important when you are going into the application and trying to understand the logic. They are important in some processes, but not in others. But using this way, we have no other choice than to just see it everywhere and have it mixed in all the places. Yeah, yeah. When we are using external packages, I mean, I know this left part is like definitely not readable, but just you have to believe me, this is a part of Apollo, I believe. I've fetched it from GitHub, and those are around first 100 lines that are just imports for the types. So we imported 100 lines of types, and on the right we see an TypeScript error that this isn't even the worst one, but that the column definition is not assignable to a type column definition, example unknown. But if you go further and you see that this is a variadic one, and you can have like a different version of the same type, and start to reading through this code, In the worst cases, you can end up with exceptions of like pages long code of what's wrong, and it's very, very unreadable. And in fact, maybe you don't even care, but you have to use it, right? Yeah, we're compiling now. This is back in 2012. Yeah, something unheard of. So we can say, yeah, we're compiling, we can slack off, and we can take, this is an extreme example, but 2 minutes, 20 seconds to compile a project, right? And in a big environment, if you're creating a library of some kind, and you want to go through the compile step each and every time, this will add up, and this will add up quickly. And in the end, we have type gymnastics. I mean, if you read, because this is a repository from GitHub, if you read through the description, this is a collection of wonderful TypeScript type gymnastics code snippets. It sounds good, right? It sounds like something positive, but in fact, if we see the definition of type gymnastics, you will see that types became so convoluted in TypeScript that they are actually Turing complete. You can write any program in TypeScript. You can write chess, you can calculate arithmetics, you can create games, and you can create an SQL database purely in TypeScript type annotations. Oh, if that's possible, that's possible. I just think this is getting out of hand. This is getting out of hand quickly, and this is quite absurd. But not all of it is bad, right? We want especially the syntactic sugar that, especially in the first days when we have like ECMAScript 2015, 17, whatnot, a lot of syntactic sugar that finished in the ECMAScript specification started in TypeScript or like libraries like TypeScript, where there was no mechanism in the JavaScript for it, and there it is, because it was introduced in TypeScript. So there is no magic bullet, but JSDoc is actually a pretty nice alternative if you just want static typing and nothing more. And this is the route that actually was taken by Svelte and SvelteKit. The second tweet I've shown you was about Svelte. And yeah, they were not ditching TypeScript because they were still export the TS files with the definition of types. But because they removed the TypeScript types, they removed the whole compile step. And for a framework, that's a big deal. For a library, that's a big deal. And this is just to make it in line with SvelteKit. If you don't know, SvelteKit is like working exactly like that. It's a JavaScript with types definition in JSDocs and DTSs for the TypeScript compatible environments. If you don't need a part of TypeScript or like any part of toolchain, just don't use it. It became a standard to use everything, to introduce all the complexity there possibly can be, because you have to use it. Like if you're not using it, you're not using TypeScript correctly, right? You have to introduce all those fancy new features just to have them, even if you don't intend to use them or just using them for the sake of using them. You have to do it, and I think there's nothing wrong with omitting those parts and using only what you need. And remember, TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript. If you have an issue with like starting a new project because you have like maybe not so much experience with integrating with libraries that are having very complicated and big type definitions like Apollo, GraphQL, I think those are very good examples, especially GraphQL, you will probably benefit more from risking having an not standard definition, not standard configuration of the TypeScript compiler, and just disabling some stuff you are struggling with. Yeah, you are putting some risk back again on the table from the old days without having the types, but this is not so much risk. You have all the types, you have the definitions. You are just disabling some features to not get stuck with them. And believe me, it's not fun to get stuck with like free developers for half a day because you are trying to integrate some library and you're just struggling with types. today's tooling and stacks for JavaScript and TypeScript, yeah, especially TypeScript, became so complicated, it's absurd. So if you need something maybe less flexible, but like Deno, Bun, especially Bun, I was attending a hackathon, Hack Yeah, last month, I believe, and we bootstrapped an application using Bun, using a Vercel to deploy it on the edge, and using SvelteKit to create the boilerplate for the app. And we were able to create a working app with HMR deploying on the edge in like 25 minutes. Is it as elastic as we would like handcrafted all the configuration files and use every features possible from Webpack builders, assets, compilers, types? Yeah, definitely not. But it was good enough, and it took 20 minutes. So something to think about. And this is the same for elasticity of Webpack. Webpack started as a maybe not so light, but quasi-light architecture, and over the years it's gathered those new requirements, new configuration flags, and the configuration files are getting absurdly large. You can have plugins to extension, and maybe you can just use Vite or ESBuild. Yeah, it's not so elastic, but it works, and it works really fine if you are a typical project. And to be honest, I know that there is this saying that, oh no, well, we cannot use this standard way of thinking, of doing, because our project is like different, it's somewhat different. But the reality, the meaning of words, atypical projects come from the fact that most projects are typical, right? Maybe you are like trying to convince yourself that you cannot like limit the feature set that you are using. You are trying to find a meaning for using of all those tools just to use them. And when in reality your project is typical, maybe you could just bootstrap a Bun project and build it with Vite and SvelteKit in 20 minutes. And give it to some more people to develop, and it will be fine. And yeah, you can always complicate things down the road if needed. Like, even if you disable some rules today, and heck, if you decide to disable TSLint in one file because something like broke horrifically, and you decide to do it in another way, enable some of the types, then enable some of the types, and then enable very strict mode with like everything, that's also fine. You don't have to start the right way from the get-go. Like, this is not necessary. Maybe if, obviously you're living in a, like I was in the hole one, if you are sending something to the moon, yeah, that's quite a different story, but I believe then probably you're not using TypeScript. But in the 90% of cases, I personally believe you can start small and grow big like gradually, not jumping into overcomplicating your stack just to introduce it. And some people still are like living into the old days that in 2012, 2013, 14, we had like very basic and very poor feature set of JavaScript itself. So we needed TypeScript, if not even for the types, we needed for the syntactic sugar, for like all the stuff that all different modern and not even not so modern, but all the different programming language have and JavaScript lacks. But if you check the newest ECMAScript 2022, 2023, but yeah, this is not yet supported too well, you will see that all like the private fields, the overwriting stuff, like the whole syntactic sugar of different languages that were missing is now there. And maybe you don't need it. And maybe if you need just typing and don't want to overcomplicate your build, compile it, have all those issues, maybe you can go with JSDoc. Maybe that's possible for you. Yeah, this is and this is not referring to you. This is referring to me. I'm not that guy. I'm not gonna trying to convince you. I know all of it, and you should definitely use JSDoc, JavaScript. Never use TypeScript. This is bad. No, but definitely TypeScript has its place, and I would say you have to make a meaningful, reasonable decision on your own. You look at your stack, look at your project, what do you need, when do you need it, and then decide, like, instead of going with like after what majority of developers go. So like, yeah, when we start a project, we have to download a boilerplate from Angular, React side, Vue.js side, Svelte side, with everything enabled, and we use it as that because we have to use it as that. You cannot remove anything, right? But I think maybe you can, and maybe you should. Okay. Thank you. Any questions?